If you grew up in 2000s, you know Naruto. I also grew up with it. It's like my brain default setting for when I think of fox, and I immediately picture Kurama, the nine-tailed fox, the living weapon sealed inside a kid. But then I started to think about it, and I recently started to read about it, and I realized the real legend is much older. And honestly, it is way weirder and a lot more complicated. So I kept asking myself, what if this whole thing isn't just about a monster? What if it's about a god? Or what if it's about a mischievous trickster who shaves monk's head just for fun? And the sometimes story isn't even that grand. Sometimes it's just about a beautiful woman who is mysterious, who gets a bit drunk and grows a tail. Yeah, it is a real story around it. So, the more I fell down this rabbit hole, the more I was convinced. The Japanese legend of the Kurama, or the actual name Kitsune, is one of the most fascinating yet the contradictory and downright bizarre myth in the entire world. And it all left me with this one question which I just couldn't shake. Why a fox? If you think about it, Japan has bears, wolves, monkeys, those funny looking tanukis, all these incredible animals. Then why did this one small canine become the symbol for supernatural intelligence, illusion, and transformation? And the answer I found wasn't hidden in some magical scroll or forbidden jutsu. It was hiding in a plain sight, in the real world behavior of one of the most adaptable and frankly most uncanny animals on the planet. Namaste, Adab, and a very warm welcome. It's Mansab, and you are listening, or in this case, watching Simply Wild. So, the first thing I had to do to even begin to understand this is to throw out my idea of good versus evil, because that just doesn't apply here. It is not that simple. In Japan, I realized the fox isn't a one thing. It's like it plays for the two teams and sometimes at the same time. It lives in this chaotic spectrum of ambiguity. So, on one hand, I was reading about the good foxes. They call them Zenko, which literally means good foxes. Sometimes they are also called as Tenko, means heavenly foxes. These are the divine messengers, the sacred servants of Inari Okami, the Shinto god or goddess, their gender is fluid, of rice, fertility, and sake. Basically, the deity in charge of keeping everyone fed and feed. So when I was looking at pictures of Inari shrines like the famous Fushimi Inari shrine in Kyoto with its thousands of red torii gates sneaking up the mountains, I noticed that you don't really see the idols of statues of Inari god or goddess, but you see foxes everywhere, usually white, and often they are holding a key in their mouth, a key to a rice granary, and wearing a little red bib. They are the symbol of good harvest, business success, a full wallet. They are the protectors, the wise ones. But then, just as I thought I had it figured out, I found the other side of the coin, the bad fox, the yako, or field foxes. They are also known as nogitsune, wild foxes. And these are the ones you have to watch out for. This is where it gets really interesting for me, because this is where all the shape-shifting, the illusion, the positions, the positions, and the general supernatural mayhem comes from. This is the fox that will take a form of a beautiful woman to seduce a man. I don't know where that legend comes from, but it's there. And sometimes it leads the man to ruin, but other times, and these stories are often heartbreaking, I don't know, because sometimes they get married and live happily ever after. There is a famous tale which I read of Kuzunoha, who married a nobleman and had a child who grew up to be a legendary sorcerer. But she had to flee back to forest after her son saw her tail. And these are the foxes which practice illusions, creating kisunobi of, or also known as foxfire. Those eerie flickering lights, you might have seen it in the Ghibli movies. It is the one that engages in this mischievous, sometimes cruel pranks. And I'm talking about shaving off a sleeping monk's hair or leading a greedy merchant on a wild goose chase with these enchanted leaves that look like gold coins, only for them to turn around and see those are just leaves. And then there is another part to this, which is Kitsunosuke, Fox position. And I was fascinated by this. The belief was that the fox could literally enter a person's body, causing them to speak in strange voice and develop a bizarre cravings for tofu. Yeah, apparently, according to Japanese legend, foxes love tofus. The older the kitsune gets, the more powerful it becomes, and in every 100 years, it might grow another tail. And if a fox lives for 1,000 years, it can achieve its ultimate form, a nine-tailed golden furred tenko, a being of divine status, almost a god. And that's when I realized that nine-tailed form, like Kurama, in the original lore, it is not a sign of a monster. That's the sign of spiritual evolution. So I was left with this puzzle. Is it a god or a demon? A benevolent protector or a malevolent trickster? Symbol of wealth or a harbinger of madness? And the answer I came to was just yes, all of the above. And the reason for this beautiful ambiguity, the reason Japan never fully made its mind about the fox is because of the real animal itself. And that's when it all clicked for me. I had to look at the creature behind the myth. The creature, the Kondo Kitsune, the Japanese red fox. It is not a magical beast. It's a small canine, smaller than dogs, maybe 10 to 15 pounds. The fox in Japan is edge animal. It doesn't live in the mountains like a bear, and it's obviously not domestic like dog. It thrives in the in-between spaces, the boundaries between our world and the wild, the liminal space. So I tried to put myself in the shoes of an ancient Japanese farmer. That was fun. My world is small. I don't see a fox on a document, but I do see a reddish brown fur disappearing at twilight. I see a flash or unnervingly reflection of eyes in the lantern just outside the edge of village. And then I learned about its call. Here it is. Imagine hearing that echo through a dark, silent forest. It is easy to see how I'd start thinking it was a spirit, or someone in distress, or something not quite natural. So I see this incredible animal, and I see this animal's incredible intelligence. It learns my routines. It definitely outwits my traps to steal my chickens. It seems to understand me, maybe even mock me. It's almost human in its cleverness, but it's clearly not. And that in between status, neither wild nor tame, near human but elusive, that's the perfect breeding ground for a supernatural story. The fox became the perfect biological peg to hang all these stories of transformation and ambiguous morality on. Its real behavior mapped perfectly onto the need to explain the unexplainable things, the things that happen just outside the circle of the campfire light. But this this is the part that I think is just brilliant. There's a practical ecological reason for this dual identity. So I kept asking myself, why is the fox the divine messenger of Inari, the god of rice? And then I dig more about it. And then it hit me. If my entire life, the survival of my village depends on the rice harvest, my number one existential enemy isn't a demon, it's the mice and rats that devour my rice in the field and infest my granaries. And what's the fox's primary real world ecological role, especially near human settlements? It's a master predator of rodents, mice, moles, rats. They make up a huge portion of its diet. So, for the ancient farmer, the fox wasn't just a spooky voice or a potential chicken thief. It was a vital ally. It was the protector of the rice. and its presence meant fewer rodents, which meant a better harvest, which meant survival. It was a tangible, living symbol of prosperity. And of course, I would build a shrine to it, and of course, I would see it as a divine agent working on my behalf. This cultural ambiguity, the fox as both a potential pest and a sacred protector, is what makes this myth so endearing. It perfectly reflects the complicated relationship we had with this animal. And thinking about that complicated relationship brought my mind right back to where it all started, back to Naruto. And I realized the genius of Masashi Kishimoto's story isn't just about the cool ninja fights, it's how deeply he tapped into the ancient and culture of Japan itself. Kurama starts as the Yakub, the wild fox, the force of pure destructive nature, feared and hated. But through his forced connection with Naruto, though shared experience and a grudging respect, he transforms. He doesn't become tame, but he becomes an ally, a partner, a protector. He transitions essentially from a Nogisune to something closer to Tenko. And that's not just a cool anime plot, that is the entire 1500-year-old history of Fox's role in Japanese culture, perfectly retold through a shonen manga. The fear, the distrust, and the eventual respect of the harnessing of power for protection. It's all there. For centuries, from ancient farmers to modern anime fans, we all been just trying to figure out the same thing. Is it a friend or a foe, god or a demon? And the answer, I think, is always complicated, and it is both.